The island of Widow's Bay is a place frozen in amber, lacking Wi-Fi, plagued by spotty cellular service, and long sustained only by the fading memories of fishing and whaling. Tom is the widely disliked mayor of this island. He's desperate to drag the town into the modern era and reinvent it as a bustling tourist haven. He pulls off a public relations miracle. He convinces the New York Times to publish a glowing travel feature. But as the ferries begin to swell with unsuspecting mainlanders and bachelorette parties, an ancient, rusted mechanism beneath the island begins to turn. The sudden influx of fresh blood triggers a centuries-old curse that the insular, deeply superstitious locals always warned would return. What follows is a cascading nightmare masquerading as a tourist season. As Tom tries to maintain a fragile veneer of normalcy, insisting to skeptical reporters that historical rumors of local cannibalism are mere folklore, the island manifests a rotating menagerie of localized terrors dictated by a malevolent underlying entity, the Breakwater Inn. Dared by his constituents to prove his skepticism, Tom stays the night at a notoriously haunted hotel, only to be stalked through its claustrophobic crawl spaces by a phantom killer clown. The Sea Hag, a literal manifestation of the ocean's rot, this creature crawls from the surf to scratch Tom's arm, marking him as her designated prey. The Boogeyman, a masked serial killer from local folklore, resurfaces, vindicating Tom's eccentric assistant, Patricia, whose teenage trauma regarding the killer had long been dismissed as a lie by the town. The demon communicates its demands through the heavily chained church bells. Each chime dictates a required sacrifice, the historic blood pact. To understand the rot, the narrative plunges back to the year 1702. Through a dark historical window, we learn that the island's ruthless founder, Richard Warren, made a diabolical bargain with a demonic entity to ensure his colony survived its first brutal winter. The prosperity of Widow's Bay was bought with a blood covenant, and the entity has come back to collect the remaining interest. In a 1702, Richard made a desperate blood pact with a demon for his colony to survive a brutal winter. Then came centuries of quiet. The island sleeps. History fades into folklore. The entity waits in the deep. But in 2026, Mayor Tom's tourism push brought a lot of fresh mainland blood, and that awakened the horrible entity. The first season reaches its crescendo in the last episode during a violent, howling storm that cuts the island off entirely from the mainland. Huddled inside an emergency shelter with terrified locals and vacationers, a horrifying truth is uncovered by the mayoral staff. The shelter itself is a trap, a historical mechanism designed not to keep the people safe, but to corral them as a collective offering to satiate the beast. In a frantic race to end the curse, Tom and Wyke deduce that the covenant can only be broken if Richard Warren's bloodline is completely wiped out. Tom targets his elderly, sharp-tongued secretary, Ruth Livingston, believing her to be the final link. In a harrowing moral collapse, Tom attempts to poison Ruth to save the island, only for a devastating deathbed revelation to stop him in his tracks. Ruth reveals she is actually the biological mother of Tom's late wife, Lauren. This means Tom's own rebellious teenage son, Evan, carries the founder's blood. When a man falls into the offering chair and is accidentally offered to the demon, the island becomes peaceful for a short while. But then the bell tolls 8 times, revealing that the hunger of Widow's Bay has only just been whetted, and son Evan is directly in its crosshairs.